You're listening to the #1 podcast for nonprofit leaders, getting your nonprofit fully funded. This is the Fundraising Masterminds podcast. Well, hey, welcome back. We are so glad that you are here. Today, in this episode, we are going to walk you through all the steps you need to set up your own monthly giving program. And so I'm super excited, especially if you don't have anything like this. You're going to want to definitely stay tuned to the very end of this podcast.
Well, I can tell you with my own personal support, and I think I've mentioned this more than a few times, I raised my own personal support. I have about 125 people that have been giving regularly for a good part of 38 years that we've been in ministry. And if you can imagine, I mean, just do a very simple math. 30 years at 12 gifts a year, that is 360 gifts. And a good majority of those people have never missed a month in 30 plus years. And so that consistent giving is just so critical.
I can tell you with Reaching the Heart of Zambia, my nonprofit, we started a monthly sponsorship program for the kids at the school. And for $38 a month, you can sponsor a child for school.
Right.
It provides that regular monthly income.
Absolutely.
That's right. And I tell you what, over time, that $38 builds into, several $100s or several $1,000s a month. And so if you can just kind of imagine, monthly income coming into your organization, it really helps you to plan.
Yes.
Because I can expect a certain amount coming in. Before we get into the meat of this podcast, if you wouldn't mind subscribing where you're at, whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or even YouTube, hit that subscribe button, click the little bell notification so that the app reminds you when we release new episodes.
It costs you nothing to subscribe, and it helps you ensure that you're not missing one of our valuable episodes.
Be sure to comment because we read every single comment, and we sometimes use those questions and comments for future episodes. Well, by the way, my name is Jason Galsinski. I am the founder of Fund Easy and Fundraising Masterminds. And with me, my co-host, Jim Dempsey. He is the 38-year development veteran at CRU, which is Campus Crusade for Christ.
Absolutely.
And together, we've made up about 60 years of development experience in nonprofits. Jim has been training organizations for 38 years on how to do development best practices, and I've been working with thousands of nonprofits, helping them with event fundraising software. We're excited today to talk about how to establish a monthly giving program.
Well, Jason, let's start first of all with the benefits of a monthly giving program. What would you say are the benefits of a monthly giving program?
Yeah, well, the benefit is it provides a consistent monthly income, and it takes the pressure off of some of the decision makers. Yeah,
absolutely. And having been there, and I know you are currently a CEO of a nonprofit yourself. I've been a decision maker in a major ministry. I can tell you that those two things are so important, that consistent income and also taking the pressure so that, as we talked about in the very beginning, you're eliminating that up and down, and especially the summertime. We all know how difficult summertime is for nonprofit organizations. People go on vacation, they forget about it. But if we can get someone into a monthly giving program, especially if it's an electronic fund transfer, automatic credit card deduction from your account, it provides for that consistent income.
There's so many platforms out there that do that. We're actually at Fund Easy in the process of designing our own monthly giving program. So we're in the process of creating that software right now. But there's other programs out there that exist right now. You can just Google nonprofit software and you'll find a whole plethora of them. I don't even want to mention one because there's just so many to choose from. And I'd say, when you're looking at software, you want to make sure that you find software that works with credit cards for sure, but you also really want to make sure you get the software that works with the bank transfer. Because a lot of times the bank transfer ends up being cheaper, because the credit card typically takes 2.5 to 3% of the total transaction, but the bank transfer is significantly cheaper. Like a lot of times it'll either be a flat amount, like 50 cents of a thing, or it'll be like 1% or something like that. Also along those lines, the bank transfer doesn't typically expire. Credit cards tend to expire every 3 to 4 years. So you have that Now some of the platforms will auto update.
Yeah,
I don't exactly know how that works.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, there's problems with people's credit cards. They get stolen, something happens. And so every once in a while, I just had this happen to Reaching Our Heart Zambia. One of our donors, their credit card got stolen, and, they canceled the card. And then I got a notification, that the monthly gift failed.
Right.
And then I had to reach out to them. Well, that kind of stuff doesn't typically happen with bank transfers, because you're not carrying around a bank transfer card. It doesn't usually get stolen.
Yeah.
And so getting people set up on bank transfers tends to save you money, and it tends to be a lot more consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. And some programs actually have auto increases. I don't know technically how it works, but I know that Crew has got it set up for a lot of my monthly partners that there'll be a 3% increase every year of that giving. And it's nice. I mean, every once in a while I'll see, somebody who was giving $100 a month now is giving $103 a month.
That just happens without their permission?
Oh no, they have to, they definitely have they've gotten their permission.
Okay.
I know that they signed that during the transfer. So somewhere either Crew has them sign that or the bank has them sign it, but somewhere there's that automatic increase. And it's not everyone agrees to do it, but I've got a nice handful of people that agree every year.
Wow.
Jason, I'm going to tell you a little known fact that you probably have never heard and never knew about me. But when I first was assigned to the development office of Crew, my first job was to manage what we called at that time a pledge program, a monthly giving club for Crew. It was called the Penny Plan, and it was the idea, the concept of insurance mogul Art DeMoss, who was out of Philadelphia, who was a longtime friend of our founder, Bill Bright. His idea was for our partners, our donors, to give 1 penny for every international staff member that we had. As an example, we, at the time that I took it over, we had 1,500 international staff, 1 penny for each staff. The average gift was $15 a month. And so that was my first foray into a monthly giving program, was through the Penny Plan. Now, I will have to say that I was involved in what was probably considered the greatest monthly giving program ever crafted in the Christian world, and that was History's Handful, which the name alone is legendary among Christian organizations. What a better name could you choose than History's Handful? Being part of a handful of people that are changing history.
Wow.
When Bill Bright set up that giving program in the late 1970s, early 1980s. It was revolutionary. Nobody had set out a goal at that point in time. The goal was to find 1,000 people to give $1 million or more.
Wow.
For a goal of $1 billion. Nowadays, $1 billion campaign is a drop in the hat for Stanford, Harvard, even Northwestern had a $4 billion campaign just recently. And those numbers are astronomical. But in the late 1970s, that was revolutionary even for universities to consider a $1 billion campaign. And that's what Bill Bright set aside, was the History's Handful program.
Wow.
And I was on the ground floor of that. It was exciting.
Yeah, there's other ministries out there that have followed Bill Bright's footsteps there. I like how he kind of had a name.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's a ministry early on that I worked with out of college. They called it the Change Partner program.
Right.
And what it was it was a monthly giving program.
Sure.
But they would say, if you want to be a change partner,
right,
you can become a change partner by giving monthly to our program.
Right.
It's just this idea of having kind of an inner circle or being a part of this program that was dedicated to moving the ministry forward.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So picking a name is so important.
Exactly. Thank
Calling
you, Jason.
it something.
Yeah. Well, right. Exactly. And it's got to be something that people look forward to being a part of.
It makes it feel like they're joining something.
Right. Something valuable, a club. Now, of course, in our day and age now, Jason, every major travel industry has a club. I am part of the United Club, have been for decades. You look back at the history, one of the biggest things that impacted the club status, or the status, was American Express. They used to have the slogan, membership has its privileges. And so being part of a membership club or a giving program is something that's very desirable for people. So picking a name, as you mentioned, is important, and making the benefits of that very valuable. Now, first of all, though, the overarching concept that's important we want to get across is the cause concept. You mentioned the word change partners, and I would venture to say, and you and I haven't even talked about this, but I would venture to say that the word change in there was either changing our world or helping to change the direction of things, so that we're talking about changed lives individually. And it's so important.
The ministry was focused on, God's word, teaching God's word, and God's word changes lives.
Changes lives,
So they would call it, you help us to get God's word out to more people.
Right.
The way that you do that is by becoming a change partner.
Right. Absolutely. And I know pregnancy centers have used things like lifesavers, because they're saving babies' lives. So there's a lot of concepts out there, life partners. But the big overarching principle is you need to come up with a cause concept. What's a big cause concept? I mentioned earlier the penny plan and the idea that it was helping to fund our staff. Now, the idea of funding the staff itself wasn't the big selling item, but it was what our staff funded was going to do. What was the outcome? And they're going to be bringing the gospel to internationals all over the world. And so you've got to make sure that you have a strong cause concept. And just keeping the doors open is generally not a strong enough cause concept. Now, you mentioned one earlier that is always a terrific seller. Now, it's not always possible to do what you talked about, but sponsorship of a child. When you're talking about that your $1.50, $15, $25 is going to help to educate, feed, and essentially change a life of one student. That's a great cause concept.
$38 helps you to get a child off the street, helps you to feed the child, gives them textbooks, and helps pay for their education, all the way through high school.
Well, and again, of course, it hits on what I love, which is that principle that you could mouth. As I say it, I know people give to people, justified by the cause. And so that individual person, I'll bet you probably send photos and pictures when you're able to, so that they can picture, this is the child that I'm helping.
Actually, part of the program is we send them a photo of the child. As soon as they get sponsored, we actually put them on a magnet, so they can put the photo, as we call it, a prayer magnet. So they put the photo on their fridge. They can see them every morning when they're getting a cup of coffee or making breakfast. So they can be reminded to pray for them. And then we also encourage a back and forth. So every quarter, because in Zambia they have schools broken up into 4 quarters. So at the beginning of every quarter, we have the teachers sit down with the children who are sponsored, and they have them write out a letter to their sponsor. And so then they take a photo of, this is amazing. Back in like the 50s, they probably had to mail stuff. But now they can just take a photo of the letter. They send it to us. Within like a second, we have the photos, and then we print them out and we mail the photos or email them to our sponsors,
to the partners.
And then of course they love getting letters from their child. And so then they oftentimes will respond. And so we try to coordinate this back and forth, and that helps them to feel like they get to be a part of changing a life of a child in Africa.
Absolutely. Now, as a companion to the strong cause concept, there needs to be a strong marketing push and a marketing approach. And the marketing approach includes email marketing, mailing marketing, but you want to be promoting the club itself or the giving program. So if we're going to use the term History's Handful like we did, you're getting the History's Handful concept out to everyone, that being part of this program is something that's desirable, and it gives them, they feel like they're making a difference. Now, with that, you want to look for benefits of membership. Now, we all know, I mentioned earlier, some of the travel clubs, whether it be rental car. I know that when I am a frequent flyer of United Airlines, I have a certain status, platinum status, or there's 1K status that's up there, even global partner status. So you've got these different status levels. And of course, the idea is by flying more often, you increase your status. It's exactly the same way with rental car companies. So many opportunities in the travel industry. And of course, you're rewarded by spending more money or purchasing more tickets, whatever it is. Well, the same thing applies to this program. When you give more to this particular program, you're going to be part of a different status. And so typically one that's chosen often is a bronze, silver, gold, or a platinum, gold, bronze, silver, or something like that. So you've got the different status, and you get that status based on the size of your gift. So if you give, a gift of 100 to 499, you are a bronze member of this particular club. If you give 500 to 499, you are a silver status, so something like that.
I mean, what are the benefits of having? That sounds complicated to me.
It may sound complicated, but it really isn't as complicated as it sounds.
Okay.
Well, you've got different things that your organization would offer. Let's say that you are a counseling center in Chicago.
Okay.
You may have a counseling library that deals with areas that people are struggling with, depression, suicide, pornography, whatever it is. Well, you could give them, as part of this benefit, you could give them access to that online library, or you could provide for them specialized or personalized articles or newsletters that they would get by virtue of being part of that. Or say you do seminars on those particular topics, whether it be depression or dealing with pornography. Those courses you may charge people for those, normally the general public. But what you could do is you could offer those seminars free of charge to people that are part of that membership. So you've got to look.
Is it appropriate to offer like a coupon code for certain things?
Absolutely.
Or is that like a no, you can't do that?
I think that's terrific. I think it's a great idea.
You could say like bronze members get 25% off.
And just put in the coupon code. So it would be, you'd have the coupon code
There's
B32.
no weird things with I'm giving so much money, so you get so much money off.
Well, that's where you've got to be careful. When you're talking about a benefit of membership, as long as everyone gets the same amount, as long as it's not a quid pro quo, you give 30, I give you a book, then you don't have to do that. If everyone who gives $30 will get these benefits, then you don't have to deal with the IRS through that particular way. But yes, absolutely. If you were offering a premium, we will, for your gift of $32, we'll give this to you. Then you've got to look at the value of that particular book when you're offering it to people as a perk, so to speak, of the membership.
A program.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter like how much.
That's right, because it's not a quid pro quo in a sense.
Okay.
So you're good.
Well, that's helpful to know.
Yeah, absolutely. But it varies. Over the years, I've had everything in I've had pins when lapels were this big. We used to offer pins for membership. We had pens we used to give to people. Paperweights, one of the most memorable benefits of a giving program was the Jesus Film. When in their early days they were sending teams out with 8mm projectors showing videos out there for people, films, and they would burn through over a year, showing those films so many times. They'd burn through those projectors in the film strips. So they would take little slices of those film clips and put it in a lucite paperweight that had the clip from the Jesus Film. that was as hot as you can be. I mean, I used to go into business people's offices and see that lucite little clip of film all over the offices of business people.
Wow.
So there's a lot of
just
benefits
kind of help
of
them
membership.
remember what they contributed to.
Right. That's exactly
That's
right. Well, and one of the things that author and speaker Josh McDowell does, Josh does for his benefits of membership or his people. This is about as corny as they can get, but you wouldn't believe how memorable it is. He will walk into planes and he will ask a flight attendant for extra air sickness bags. And his team will give him a list of major donors. And when he flies to Russia or to Africa, to another country overseas, he's got these long flights. He sits and writes notes on the air sickness bag that says, "Dear Joe, I'm sick. I couldn't be with you today. Wish that we were getting time together. I appreciate your partnership, Josh." And I have gone into business people's offices and seen air sickness bags on some of their prominent places in their office from Josh McDowell. So there's a lot of creative things that you can do with those kinds of things.
Wow.
So benefits are important. Now, I talked about a little bit the membership levels. And once again, think what works for your organization. Certainly bronze, silver, gold works very well for athletic organizations. Our Athletes in Action, of course, which is a sports ministry, FCA, those kinds of organizations is a slam dunk to have a bronze, silver, and gold. But think of the kinds of levels that you might want to have for your organization. You could have a different name for that particular, but think about the levels, and each level should have a different benefit for that as well too.
Okay.
So you are looking for, in these clubs, you're looking for consistency and you're looking for loyalty in these clubs.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to build, is that consistent giving and that loyalty.
Well, this is great, Jim. Would you mind just kind of summing up the 5 or 6 points that you made real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, just the benefits of a giving program. You've got consistent income, and it takes a lot of the pressure off of the leadership,
Right.
especially in downtimes of the year, the summer months. Gives that consistent income throughout the year. We're talking about setting up a program, having a strong cause concept, making sure that whatever you are presenting to them, that will this giving club will help to fund. Make sure you've got that strong cause concept.
Talked about the online program. Make sure that you do something online, right? Where you have the credit card and the debit card. Typically the debits,
Right.
the ACH, the bank transfers are cheaper.
All those,
Make sure
right.
you have all that set up.
Yeah, have those opportunities. Certainly, you still have some old school people who want to write a check every month.
Right.
You will have the people that will want to do credit card, but certainly those electronic fund transfers, all those are so good. Anyway, I just encourage everyone to consider a monthly giving program.
Yeah, it's been really good. So if you have not started a monthly giving program, we would strongly encourage you to do it because of all the reasons we mentioned. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast because we release weekly content in this podcast that helps you get fully funded. Okay, so there's all kinds of topics we talk about.
Oh, yes.
Anywhere from leadership to monthly donor programs,
Boards
to
of
board
directors'
members,
role and responsibilities,
how to start nonprofits,
getting referrals.
We just did a few on year-end giving.
Absolutely.
And easy giving.
Giving Tuesday.
One of the things that we often talk a lot about is the Perfect Vision Dinner. And the reason why we talk about that so much on this podcast is because we just put together an online program called the Perfect Vision Dinner. And what it is it's a 20-week coaching program where we actually take you through the process. And it's a 3-legged stool. So, it's a video series, but also we have weekly coaching calls and we have an online community of alumni. And through all that, we love to walk you through the process from beginning to end on getting your nonprofit fully funded. It's a 20-week program. So if you imagine, getting fully funded in 20 weeks, And a lot of times, people kind of, when I explain this to them, they kind of, their eyes kind of roll back. I don't know what that means, fully funded. What is fully funded? It could be anything. What
sounds nebulous, doesn't it? Yeah.
What fully funded means is it means that we want to help you accomplish your dreams. Why does your nonprofit exist in the first place? Think big, think beyond just surviving.
Right.
Think, what would it take for me to just not survive, but to thrive? And that's what we want to try to help you get to.
Yeah.
Right. And our perfect vision dinner course is our path for you to go from surviving to thriving in a 5-month time period. If you're interested in that, scan the QR code on the screen or go to fundraisingmasterminds.net.
Yep.
We offer this course 2 times a year. It's not an automated thing because there's personal coaching involved. So it's only open 2 times a year. We do one in the fall, preparing you for the spring. We got one in the spring, preparing you to the fall. If you go to our website and it says, join the waiting list, join the waiting list, because you will get special privileges being on the waiting list. You'll be the first one to know when the enrollment period opens. And we typically do an early bird promotion for the people on the waiting list.
We reward those people who had the patience to wait.
Well, if this episode has been helpful to you, let us know in the comments or ask us a question. We read all your comments and we consider them. We take them all to heart. Sometimes we use your questions for future episodes. Yeah. So let us know what you thought. And thanks again for joining us this week at the Fundraising Masterminds podcast. We'll see you next time.
Take care.